it's a little hard to be optimistic right now. So I wanted to talk about some ways in which to do this, and certainly being here today is a good step. What's it been like for you with the knowledge that you're having trouble making your mortgage payments, or maybe your finances have been reduced this year, or you've lost a job, or your mortgage is upside down? What's that been like? Stress, yes, that would be a good word. What kind of stress? I mean, do you just think of it like once a week? It's constant, isn't it? I mean, it seems to me that when I've been in a serious financial crisis because of a job loss and there wasn't any income coming in, it just tainted everything, every aspect of my life all the time. It was just like this gray stream flowing beneath everything. So I think it's the kind of stress that's very, very difficult. And it's hard to focus even on the people you love and enjoy them because you're kind of got this preoccupation going over here. So that's the kind of stress that most people have been under recently because it's impacted all of us. Even those of us on the staff at St. Luke's, we've had to reduce our incomes just so that we could maintain our present staff. So there isn't anyone who hasn't been immune in the past couple of years. So I wanted to talk about some techniques to manage this level of stress, because the things that the presenters were talking about are going to take time. And fortunately, they're going to buy you time too, which is a good thing. But what are you going to do in the meantime? How are you going to get through this? How are you going to manage the anxiety that all of this creates? And if you're when you're in these situations, to not feel anxiety would be unusual. In fact, it might even be to your detriment, because if I don't feel any anxiety, I'm not motivated to do anything. I might not even be coming to this seminar. I might just go, well, it'll all work out. And of course, without taking some kind of action steps, it's not going to. So let's talk about managing your anxiety and maybe feeling a little better as you walk through this time and as we all go into survival mode just to get through this. The first way to do this is to just focus on today. Because if you think about your anxiety, where in the timeline of past, present, and future would it be? Where's worry always? It's usually the future, right? I mean, it's usually like what's going to happen when this happens. What's going to happen if I don't have any money to buy groceries? What's going to happen if I max out my credit card? It's usually down the road. So one of the main ways to deal with anxiety is to just not allow your mind to take you there. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't make some future plans, like, yes, I am going to contact the lawyer, or I am going to contact someone to modify my mortgage, or yes, I am going to look for another job. That would be appropriate, but not speculating about those negative ifs. What's going to happen if I can't find a job? So you have to bring yourself right back to today. So how do you do that? How do you stay in the present moment? It sounds very easy, but it's one of the hardest things to do, in my opinion. How do you do that? How do you keep your focus on today? Well, we're here because of financial hardship. So let's talk to ourselves this way. Let's look at just today. Do you have enough money just for today? Right? Just for today, do you have enough money? And then you can get up tomorrow morning and you go, okay, do I have enough money for today? Not, do I have enough money for the next year or the next 5 years or the next 5 months, but do I have enough money to meet my needs today? Okay, and if the answer is yes, then that's all you're going to worry about, because you've probably already started putting some other things in motion that are going to help you financially. How else are you going to keep your focus on today? Well, look around you. If you think about it right now, are you here? Is your attention here? Is it more here than it is down the road? Okay, so how you keep your focus on today is you bring your attention back to the present moment. You focus on what's going on around you, what people are saying, what people are doing, what the room looks like. All of that takes your mind away from the worry and the anxiety and brings it back to the present moment. The other thing that's really helpful is to breathe. You know, breathing is a wonderful thing. It's free. You can do it anywhere. No one will think you're crazy. So breathing is very important because when people get worried and anxious, what happens is your chest and your lungs become very constricted. And so you're breathing very shallowly, which in turn creates more anxiety in your body. It's a biochemical system. So if you take deep breaths, like coming more from your abdomen by sticking your stomach out, then what happens is it forces all of these muscles in your chest and in your abdomen to relax. Because if they're distended, then they can't be like that. So your body is going to interpret that as relaxation, which in turn is going to go back to your mind, which is going to make you feel less anxious. So when you start to anxious anxious or you find yourself getting irritable, maybe with kids, maybe with neighbors, whoever, breathing is very effective. Taking 3 or 4 deep breaths and just coming back to the present. Okay, so you want to focus on today and you want to say things to yourself. Do I have enough money for today? What is it that I can accomplish today? Today's Saturday. Hard to job hunt on a Saturday. You can go online and see what's available, but it's hard to go to job interviews on a Saturday. So you've limited things to do today in that capacity. So you have to say, what is it that I can do today? Just today. And really, today isn't even that long. My day usually ends around 10 p.m. because I have to get some sleep. So really, it's only what am I going to do till whatever your bedtime is. So you make your time frame very manageable. And instead of your mind running on about this list of all the things you have to do or should be doing, you have to pull it back and just go, okay, what are the things I really need to do today? Okay, I need to pick up my daughter, I need to buy milk, whatever the list is. Okay, so that's going to help your anxiety too and help you keep focused on today. So breathing is good. So I encourage you to experiment with some of these things. I encourage you to, when you're feeling anxious, try breathing, see if it works. If it works, keep it. If it doesn't, don't use it. The another technique is realistic but positive self-talk. And some of the speakers were mentioning that a little bit. For example, when you hear the word bankruptcy, my reaction used to be like, you know, a deer in the headlight kind of expression about terror, and that would be the end of life, and I would be homeless, I wouldn't have anything to eat. All those catastrophic thoughts would go through my mind. But from listening to the speakers today, you may have a little more realistic perspective on bankruptcy. It may seem just a little bit more manageable and even a more positive thing. So that would be the difference between telling yourself things that create anxiety and telling yourself things that would create a positive way of being. So even if I had to do bankruptcy, I could either tell myself, this is horrible, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me, I'm never going to get out from underneath that, all of which is going to de-energize me and make me sit still and depressed. Or I could say, okay, I have to do bankruptcy, this is going to help me, it's not forever. As Mr. Price said, it's only money, you know, I'm still healthy, my family's healthy, we're all together today. That would be a more positive way of looking at things And so that's going to energize you instead of de-energize you. So what are some of the kind of negative things that you tend to say to yourself? And you may not even be aware of them. They may just be so routine and so automatic that you don't notice them. But you will, what will clue you in that you're saying something negative to yourself is you're going to find yourself worried or depressed. So you'll experience the feeling before the awareness of the word comes to you. So if you think about what are some of the things that you're aware of that maybe you've been saying to yourselves before you came here today. I'm sorry? Okay, we need construction business. There isn't any. Doesn't look like there's going to be any. Okay, so how would you kind of rework that self-talk?
I'm eating today. I do have money today. I don't know what the future really holds, so why?
Yeah, there's no construction business today, or very little. I don't know about tomorrow. I'm assuming things are going to change. Because things always change, don't they? When they're good, they change to be less good. When they're less good, they change to be good. Everything always changes. So that's another way to help keep your perspective that wherever you are today is not going to stay static. So it's very important to keep that in mind. Okay, so it's important when you start to feel anxious, and there's some space there on your handout, to write down what it is that you're telling yourself about the situation. Could be things like, I can't manage this, I don't know how I'm going to pay that bill, it's always going to be like this, I'm never going to be able to pay my bills. So it's important to be able to be aware of that. And if you can write it down, it increases your awareness. You don't have to, but it is helpful, at least in the beginning when you're learning to do this. And then you have to look at that statement. And usually those kind of statements that create anxiety and depression, they're usually very general statements that imply that life is going to be like this for the next 200 years. So what you have to do is to make it not a lie, because that's not going to work, but to find a way to make it realistic and put it in a more positive framework. So you could say, well, I'm having trouble paying this bill this month. That makes it a little better than for the next 20 years. Or you could say, you know, I learned some things that I can do, some actions I can take today, and I think that's going to be helpful. So those kind of ways of looking at life a little differently are very helpful. Okay, focus on what brings you joy. What are the small things in life that bring you joy? Children, yes. I'm sorry, what else did you say? Relationships, yes. Friends, family. Or at least those members of your family that you like, right? Yeah, that brings you joy. What else brings you joy? I'm sorry? Riding. What'd you say?
That's mine too.
That's yours too, okay.
Not right. Oh,
Oh, like riding a motorcycle. Yeah. Yeah, because when you're on a bike, you're very focused on the present moment, and you're not thinking about anything except what you're doing. Yep, keeps your focus on the present. How about being outside? Does that bring anyone joy? Feeding the ducks in the pond, yes. In fact, if you have pets, do they bring you joy? Yeah. So those are some of the little things that bring you joy. And you know, and you can, I think that being in an economically difficult time means that people have to get more creative in terms of fun. You know, instead of going out and spending $50 on a meal, what could you do? Play games, go have a coffee at Starbucks, take the kids for a soda or for an ice cream cone. That's a lot cheaper than dinner. Bike, anyone ride bicycles? Right? Pack a lunch, pack something to drink. I mean, I think that one has to become a little more creative and just change how one defines fun. And I think it's a very positive thing to do. And personally, I believe that that's going to be one of the long-term blessings that come out of our struggles economically, is that we're going to redefine what is important in our life and hopefully not lose a sense of that again.